Good afternoon. It's Sunday, March 6th, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. The visit of U.S. President Joe Biden to Israel is a sign of the strong relationship Israel has with America, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said at the start of today's weekly cabinet meeting. There are those who predicted a collapse in the ties between the two countries, but that is not the case. Our relations with the U.S. are strong on all levels, Netanyahu said. Biden, who set out on a 5-day visit to the region yesterday, is scheduled to arrive in Israel Tuesday and meet with Netanyahu and President Reuven Rivlin before traveling to Ramallah to meet Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Biden will wind up his Middle East sweep in Jordan. Opposition leader MK Isaac Herzog has come out against what he has called the radical left. Speaking at a cultural event over the weekend, Herzog said the Israeli public is sick and tired of hearing about the radical left, which continuously blames Israel for the current stalemate in negotiations with the Palestinians without proposing viable solutions for preserving Israel's security. The head of the Zionist Union stressed that, in light of the current situation, the only foreseeable solution is the separation plan which he proposed several weeks ago and has since been actively pushing. He reiterated the plan can immediately reduce terror and change the reality on the ground. Herzog has recently said that the two-state solution is not realistic at this point and called for unilateral steps to be taken by Israel to separate from the Palestinians. According to Herzog's initiative, the IDF would remain present in Judea and Samaria, while still enabling Palestinians outside the major settlement blocks to run their own lives. If the Israeli army continues to operate in West Bank areas under Palestinian control, the Palestinian leadership must sever all security cooperation with Israel. This is one of the recommendations made by Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat in a document he submitted to the Palestinian leadership. Other measures suggested by Erekat include stopping to use the Israeli shekel in Palestinian areas and canceling the Paris Protocol that stipulated formalizing economic relations between Israel and the Palestinians. Erekat also recommended severing all financial ties with Israel and establishing an independent financial body in the Palestinian areas instead. He also called on the Palestinian leadership to support the popular uprising against Israel and to implement a boycott on all Israeli goods. The border police has rejected Palestinian claims that a 12-year-old Palestinian boy was injured by live fire during a protest at Kadum near Nablus on Friday. A statement issued by the border police said troops deployed in the area did not use live fire when dispersing protesters. Meanwhile, a soldier was slightly injured and a Palestinian woman shot dead by troops Friday morning after she rammed her car into soldiers at the Gush Etzion junction. The soldier was transferred to Shaarei Tzedek Hospital in Jerusalem suffering from a leg injury. The female Palestinian was named Amani Sabatin, 34, a mother of 4, from Hussan, a village nearby. Soldiers searching her car discovered a knife. Palestinian media reports claim Sabatin carried out the attack after arguing with her husband. Jihad Now is the name of a new 4-part TV series that's being broadcast on Channel 1 and deals with the roots of the Holy War, the Jihad. Award-winning journalist Henrique Zimmerman took 3 years to investigate and report global jihad, and explained to IBA News how radical Islam is succeeding and how he believes it can be stopped.
There were plenty of mistakes. And you see it. I remember a moment, a very particular moment. We've been with these 5 or 6 intelligence services people, including the Mossad in Israel, but also MI5, MI6, CIA, FBI, the German intelligence, and the head of the German Hamburg intelligence. He was almost crying and saying to us, you know, I feel today that I could avoid 9/11. I have 3,000 people on my soul. So because I was listening to the phone of one of the members of the cell that was organizing 9/11 in Hamburg, but I didn't have the permission from the judge to continue listening to their telephone, so we lost them.
I know you like to keep your head on your shoulders like most of us, but you went to some pretty dangerous spots. What was the most dangerous for you?
Well, I think it was Kurdistan, and in a way it was also Morocco. I think in Morocco it was also very, very sensitive. I know some people there were in a way linked to some jihadi groups. I think the particular moment that I remember was a certain moment when I saw something in the window of the jeep of a Kurdish general, General Barzani, in the front with ISIS. And I asked him, what's that? And he said, that's a bullet. And he even didn't blink. So that was a moment I understood this was not only cinema.
What's your conclusion? Where are we headed with global jihad?
I have a very particular conclusion, which is it's not enough to defeat them in the military front. It's vital to invest also in the educational point and also in the media to avoid the fact that the youngsters in the Muslim world will buy the narrative of these groups, of these jihadi groups, and mainly Daesh, ISIS, which is the most sexy one for some of them. So if we want to avoid the creation of new Daesh, of new ISIS in the next generations, we must invest now not only in the military field, because it's possible to defeat Daesh, but in the military front, but we must invest in education and also in information in the media in general, in the social media, for instance, to try to get these youngsters and to try to avoid more Europeans or Middle Easterns to join Daesh.
Now, the series is in Hebrew. Is it going to be in English, maybe with English subtitles later on?
I hope very much it's going to be with English subtitles, but I hope we are going to be able to produce a version in different languages for the whole world, because I think this is the deepest work ever done about the world jihad. We had the chance of having with us the person that was in our team, the person that was in charge in the intelligence of the Israeli army, Aviv Oreg, of the world jihad. So he knows everything. So through his contacts, he brought us to every place. And I think it's amazing. It's a very deep work that tries to show 35 years of a process, and not only what we see today in Iraq. Where we come from, and maybe where are we going to.
Enrique Zimmerman, thanks so much for
Thank you very much.
Jihad Now premieres this Tuesday at 9 o'clock on Channel 1. Russia has reportedly suspended the transfer of the S-300 missile defense system to Iran. A report in the Kuwait daily Al Jarida suggests that Moscow decided to punish Tehran after receiving evidence from Israel that Iran has supplied Hezbollah in Lebanon with the SA-22 surface-to-air missiles. The information handed over by Jerusalem was corroborated by Russian pilots who flew their jets over Lebanon and Syria and detected SA-22 systems stashed in regions of Lebanon under Hezbollah's control. Quoting a senior source, the newspaper also alleged that the Kremlin also demanded Iran withdraw its forces from Syria. Last month, Tehran reported it was waiting to receive delivery of the S-300 missile defense system from Moscow. Turning to the U.S., where results are in for Super Saturday when 5 states voted for their nominees in the presidential primaries. Republican presidential hopeful Ted Cruz won heavily in Kansas and Maine before his main rival Donald Trump underlined his national advantage with victories in Louisiana and Kentucky. In the Democratic race, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders gained wins in Kansas and Nebraska, triumphing over former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. However, Clinton's win in Louisiana left her well ahead with the number of delegates at the end of the night. Though not as significant as the dozen Super Tuesday contests conducted last week, the 5 states voting on Saturday showed that the race to secure party nominations was far from over. Zionist Union Knesset member Itzik Shmuley is proposing a legislation making it mandatory to install security surveillance cameras in all kindergartens and childcare centers. His initiative is in response to a rise in the reported abuse cases in childcare facilities. Shmuley said that in order to respect public privacy in the event of suspected abuse, police would require a court order to examine surveillance footage of any facility being scrutinized. In 2015, of the 80 cases opened against suspected abusers, only 4 indictments were served because of the young age of the victims that prevents them from giving testimony. Thousands of Israelis participated in a hike near the Gaza border dubbed For Them in memory of 3 servicemen who were killed in Operation Protective Edge. Yesterday's hike took place for the 2nd year. The servicemen, Captain Liad Levi, Shachar Melamed, and Tzvik Etzioni, were killed when a rocket exploded on the border as troops prepared to enter the Gaza Strip shortly before the ceasefire went into effect. Among those participating in the march was head of the Army's Southern Command, Major General Eyal Zamir, and former Chief of Staff Gabi Ashkenazi. The Israeli startup Sky-Fi is looking to provide worldwide internet access by developing an antenna capable of turning mini satellites into powerful transmitters that will cover the globe. The Israeli startup company is competing against the two technological giants, Facebook and Google, who are also in the race. According to the company's chief executives, there are presently some 3 billion people across the world who have no access to internet. The Israeli startup believes that by using its technology, the company will be able to provide them with full coverage.
Currently, satellites cannot correct errors while in space. So if antenna is not perfect, then you have to live with it, with the losses. We can fix while in space. And this fixing capability gives you both the ability to maintain the efficiency of the antenna and to adjust the footprint to places that other satellites do not have access to. Or if you launch a satellite with a rigid antenna, then you have a fixed coverage of Earth. Now we can change that and be flexible, thus gaining more revenues from a satellite eventually.
But we have to prove our technology in space, and we plan to do that in the beginning of 2017.
Shortly before the Sabbath kicked in, Prime Minister Netanyahu and his wife Sarah traveled north to the Golan Heights to mark the occasion of their 25th wedding anniversary. The couple visited the ancient town of Gamla, where they had toured 27 years ago, shortly before they were married. They also visited the site of the ancient synagogue of el-Kantir in the southern Golan Heights, where Netanyahu said he was excited to see the restoration work there, noting the Torah Ark made of the local basalt stone and decorated with historic symbols of the Jewish people. And as we get off to a new week, here's a list of 5 good things that will perhaps not only give the Netanyahu something to be excited about, but may make you feel a little proud as well. First, say shalom to internationally acclaimed U.S. rapper Nissim, formerly known as The Black, who made Aliyah. Accompanied by his wife Adina and 5 children, the family arrived in the country, fulfilling a dream the hip-hop artist has had since converting to Judaism 3 years ago. Israel's rhythmic gymnastics delegation brought home the gold and 2 silver medals in the first 2016 World Cup Series competitions that took place in Finland last week. The blue and white team won 1 silver in the group all-around final and another in the ribbons, before winning a gold in the hoops and clubs round. An Israeli water purifier vehicle is on its way to Papua New Guinea, which is suffering from a severe drought. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, together with the GAL Water Technologies, donated the Israeli Mobile Desalination Unit, which will provide clean drinking water to remote rural locations in the drought-ridden area. Israeli-born billionaire Haim Saban has set up a new fund to invest $100 million in local homegrown startups. Saban's ventures will focus on leading innovations in the mobile, social networks, e-commerce, and digital sectors. And finally, just ahead of International Women's Day, which will be marked this week, renowned Israeli actress and model Ayelet Zurer, who currently lives in Los Angeles, has volunteered to lead a new campaign that will be launched this week by the Naamatz Women's Organization Against Discrimination. Zurer, who recently played the role of Superman's mother in the featured film Man of Steel, will be providing her services free of charge. Taking a look at the local finance, and with no currency trading on Sundays, the shekel remains the same, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange started off the trading week in the plus column. Here's a look at the mid-afternoon numbers. Keep your eyes glued to the skies. Thousands of migrating birds are expected to fly through Israel in the coming month. Over the weekend, some 20,000 cranes were spotted resting at the Agmon Hula Tourist Park, taking a brief respite in the midst of their spring migration between Africa and Europe. Park staff fed the cranes in order to prevent them from causing damage to the agricultural plots in the area. Looking at the weather, and be prepared for a much warmer day tomorrow. There will be wind gusts from the east in the north of the country. And here's a look at the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's our broadcast of IBA News for today. Please join us again tomorrow when Laura Cornfield will be here to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Ariel Sullivan, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.